I am Evelyn from evelynd.com. I am a nutritionist and a life coach. And today I want to talk about triggers. Most of us have been triggered. It's a popular word lately. It feels like with the kind of the polarization in our society, especially over these past few years, that there's often a lot of triggering going on. And I recently was triggered and I examined it because I am so committed to doing my healing work and growing as a human and understanding myself and becoming more of who I am. And most of my clients are in that same place. I wanted to kind of break down what I've been observing as I move through my triggers today compared to how I used to respond to triggers. So I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully this will go very well. And also a blog post here on my website that you can go to. I'll link it down below. But I'll talk through a little bit of how these triggers works and how most of us respond to triggers in this day and age. And just this isn't new to, the polarization of the world lately. This is just human nature. And a lot of us start, and including myself, with this first level. And there's nothing wrong with this, okay? What the opportunity is, you've probably heard the expression, our triggers are our teachers. Well, that is absolutely true. And sometimes going through these levels, what I'm finding is absolutely necessary in order to fully understand what's going on. So when we look at this first level, which is I call childlike, we're coming from a very survival, kind of a primal, self-protective place. We're responding almost like a knee-jerk reaction to something that creates an emotion in us that feels threatening or worrisome or whatever the feeling is. And so we have more of an external focus. So we're looking at kind of demonizing what or who is causing this trigger within us and making it about them, the other person or the other situation that's outside of us that is triggering us. And so we're going to perhaps respond with blame or judgment or some other label or reaction that makes them the bad guy and maybe somebody else or some other situation the good guy or the solution. So it's kind of like this victim, savior, villain kind of triad, which I've talked about before, and I can link to that blog post as well. And so there's nothing wrong with this. This is totally natural. I share in the email that accompanies this, and you can sign up for that. I'll leave that link below as well so that you get the emails, which I give a little bit more of my personal information in those emails, a little bit more of the expanded concepts that I share in the posts on my website. So the opportunity is, now you can stay here. There's, I was here for a long time. I would get triggered. I would kind of, in the way I respond, I would kind of respond with a couple of things, usually judgment and a sense of like righteousness, like they're wrong and I'm right and I know what's right and they're wrong and they've got something wrong with them and that kind of thing. So righteousness was a way, it's a self-protection, and it can feel good in the moment when you feel right and when you feel like, you're in a better, superior kind of position. So it's very attractive and appealing to respond in this way. Other people might respond with like rage or blame or attack, or another way that I like to respond is avoid, like, oh, you've triggered me, unfollow, I want nothing to do with you. You're creating something that brings in insecurity or a sense of a lack of safety in me. So I am just going to avoid you altogether. So there's nothing wrong with this. It's absolutely human. But when we kind of can understand the opportunities, we can start to rise into higher and higher levels. Now, this middle level Over here, the masculine level, what I call, is more of the analytical. So this one is not actually going to bring much resolution, other than it can help neutralize the intensity we might feel when we're down here in the childlike behavior. So it can be a little bit of an emotional bypass. It can be a little bit of a suppressive place to be, but it can also help us get to a place of further understanding and compassion and neutrality. So again, there's nothing wrong with analyzing and trying to understand more, like, oh, well, maybe that person's responding this way because of, this scenario that I can't quite relate to because I haven't gone through that personally, but I can have compassion for that. Now, you want to make sure you're not bypassing your emotions and just trying to like tamp them down. So it's really important, like if you feel something, feel it, but just try not to attach to it. And if you do go into the analysis of it, don't stay there either without actually feeling the emotion, because otherwise the next trigger is going to do the same exact thing to you, and you'll be kind of stuck in this loop of analysis. Now, this is where, when we get to the third level, this is where we start to get into more of our own healing. This is where we turn toward ourselves, because usually what's happening when we feel triggered has nothing to do with what's happening or who's doing what. It has everything to do with what in us is wounded. So when we turn more into our feminine, we're actually allowing our feelings to be felt. We are connecting with our emotions and our bodies, and we are starting to build a capacity to heal at a deeper level what in us needs healing. Like, is it traumas? Is it different wounds? Is it adaptive behaviors, compensatory behaviors that don't allow us to fully understand and feel the emotions that are being triggered, understand and go there instead of focusing on the external trigger. So we need to go within, or, we don't need to, but it would be kind of more in that healing realm, the inner work realm, if we can turn within and look at our own hearts and not bypass the emotions. Because to me, like with this most recent trigger, I was able to experience all these three levels. And it's only because of the work that I've been doing, this kind of inner healing work and like kind of trauma, healing, and understanding my wounds from childhood or even generational trauma, that in my case bring me into a place of emotional avoidance and emotional suppression. And I was able to feel my initial knee-jerk childlike reaction of judgment and blame and a little bit of gossip and like talking to somebody I trust about like how I was feeling and how, wrong that person was and how right the other person was and the whole situation and just how dysfunctional it is. But then I got into this place of let me analyze it. Like, let me try to understand, like, oh, well, maybe they've got this going on, or maybe this is how they were raised and that's why they're responding that way. But really, both of them were kind of focusing on the outer. It wasn't until and I'm still healing this, obviously, it's not that quick, but it's where I could turn within. Now I am completely like, yes, I felt all these feelings and the emotions with this trigger that happened outside of me. In this situation, it was between two people in my life, but I was able to actually kind of bring it back into, oh, this is how I respond. These are some beliefs that I have about myself, some pain points that have kind of led to me to kind of dampen down my sense of expression, my sense of self-worth, my, to see more clearly the way that I compensate by being right, and by wanting control and by labeling and categorizing everything in every situation in a way for it to make sense. So such a way for me to step more into my growth, more into my own inner expansion and my healing. And so I'm grateful for the trigger. even though at first, there's some shame around like, oh, how I enact, how I reacted initially. Yeah, there's some shame. Like, that's not a person I want to be, but I'm grateful for it because it allowed me to go further in these levels and deeper within myself to really reflect, heal, understand, and shift my beliefs and heal my wounds that caused me to react. So next time this happens, hopefully I won't be triggered. And then, I just have to pay attention to the next trigger and honor it and just let it be that guidepost, let it be that teacher. So I hope this helps. If you have questions or if you relate to any of these levels, please comment below, give this a like and a share, and make sure you sign up for my emails so that you can get more of the inside scoop of what I'm all about and what I am offering and all the good stuff. So I hope you are well, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.